Welcome to Dungeon Master's Bag of Holding. Today's episode we're going to be looking at the character called Cold and Mount. Now I'm probably going to be making a few mistakes throughout this video, as this is my second and first full video about making a character sheet and the backstory of a particular character on my site. So first off, how do I come around making this particular character? Well, it's for a backup character that I usually am about to play soon with a campaign with my friends. Alright, so he's designed to come out from a particular cold environment that the new campaign is set in. Alright, just in case my character dies off, and you probably are familiar with it, and his name is Capalla, or maybe not. He's also a video that I've also made, mainly using AI. I may actually come about and actually talk about Capalla a little bit more. Right, he's also got a whole soundtrack dedicated to himself as well recently, and you can find that. It was also found out in all music streaming services as well. I'll put a link on them down below. Now, this particular character, coming back to him, is named Cold. Right, so very simple name. Right, I'm going to go into his bit backstory later on. He's a Goliath to start off with, and not only that, he actually has a mammoth as his main companion, right? And his name is Mouth. Come to that why he's named that in a second. Now, some basic information generally for this particular character, right? We break it down. Name is called Goliath is his race, right? In class and level, in this case, is going to be a fighter at level 1, right? So he has hit points at 12, and then a hit die of 1d10. His armor class is 16 due to that nice hide armor and shield that he also wields. He has a background of an outlander, and his alignment is neutral evil. Now, some personal traits for this particular character in general, right? Don't mind my little guy down the bottom here, Will Orphan, right? He's my very first character I ever designed to play in D&D, right? And he's been around ever since. And he's a mascot of this particular channel. Now, going back to personality traits, we have Cold, and he's silent, right? Speaks only when necessary, loyal to those who he considers friends, but ruthless to his enemies, right? Feats, right? He's a savage attacker, can reroll damage once per turn, taking the high result, right? Now, the other thing that he can also do is he's got a bit of flaws, so struggles to trust anyone beyond Mount. Right? Driven by a single-minded pursuit for revenge. Now, ability scores and proficiencies. Right, so he has mainly one big area, and that is his strength at 16. Right, for modifier 3, his dexterity is 12 at +1. His constitution, due to the fact of his harsh environment in general, is 14 with a +2. Intelligence of an 8, right? And then we have a -1. Now, he's not a very intelligent person, right? Particularly where he's grown up, and essentially his essential situation that we'll also get into in a second. Now, wisdom is at 10 and charisma at 10 for +0 modifiers. Now, the proficiencies that he has in general is martial and simple weapons, light, medium, and shields. And then we also have tools, right? No tools for him in this particular case, right? Saving throws is strength and constitution due to its being its highest numbers, and also he has languages, so common and giant. His skills and class features. So his skills in athletics is +5, survival at +4, intimidation +2, and perception at +2. Right, so he's a very athletic type of guy. His survival generally is probably one of his biggest advantages here, due to his, again, harsh environment that he actually grew up with. Now, his class features in general is second wind, so once per day, right, is able to regain 1 +D +1 HP as a bonus action. Now, that's a general fighter skill, right? Very good to use in general. right? Then we have the Goliath racial traits. This is what makes him shine generally in his particular type of race, or in this species. In this case, now with the new changes in the D&D rules and rule books. Now, Stone's endurance, right? So it reduces damage by 1d12 plus Constitution modifier once per short rest. So if he takes a big hit, he can reduce it to a certain number, up to 12 plus its Constitution modifier. Now, powerful build counts as one size larger for carrying capacity and lifting. So beautiful when you need to carry a lot of weight, a lot of loot in a party, right? So one powerful benefit in that sense. Now, is mountain born, so he has resistance to cold damage, a climate to high altitudes as well. So again, as is now, we mentioned before, he will grow up in the mountain regions. Now, Mount as well, we're going to look at his bit of stats as well. Now, he is a teenage mammoth. They're not going to give him at a full full mammoth's or an adult mammoth's stats, right? Because then he'll be extremely powerful. Now, name Melt has about 30 HP, armor class of 14, and neutral armor. He has a speed of 40 feet. So again, a lot of people may not think so. Mammoth is slow, probably has like 12 feet. Nope, he's got a good 40 feet speed. Now, hit dice. So 3d10 plus 6. Right? So he's large in size for his teenager, so not yet the huge size that he will get. Now, ability scores. He has strength at 18, dexterity at 10, constitution at 16, intelligence at 4, sadly, wisdom at 12, and a charisma of 7. Now, just like his companion Cold, he also has a huge strength boost as well as constitution, so they're very similar to one another. Now, skills. Perception plus 4 and survival plus 3. So attacks. So Tusk Gore. So it's a melee attack with plus 6 to hit with a reach of 10 feet. So it does 2d8 plus 4 piercing damage. Now with an adult, it's 4d8. And then Stomp melee attack. So plus 6 to hit. Reach is 5 feet with 2d10 plus 4 bludgeoning. And if I'm correct, that would, as an adult, will be 4d10. I could be wrong, but I think that's about how much damage he causes. Now, traits in general is Trampling Charge. So if Mount moves at least 20 feet straight toward a creature and hits it with a Tusk Gore attack, the target must succeed on a DC 14 strength saving throw or be knocked prone. If the target is prone, Mount can make one stomp attack as a bonus action. So not only will it do a large hit attack, it's able then to stomp on its actual enemies. So very powerful Mount compared to your general force that you'll have. Now, Keen Smell, so advantage of perception checks relying on smell, and thick hide, resistance to cold damage due to Mount's accumulation to the icy environments. Okay, now going into the backstory. So Cole's life began with nothing but a bandit, born to the ruts, to the harsh Goliath clan. He was cast out as a newborn, left at the mercy of the icy wilderness. His father did not hesitate. To the clan, a weak child was as good as dead weight. Alone in the freezing mountains, Cold's cries were swallowed by the biting winds, and his fate seemed sealed. Yet, fate is a fickle thing. A herd of mammoths, outcasts of their own, discovered the infants amongst the snow. One of them, a scarred female, took pity on him and was taken in, raised under the protective bulk of the herd. Among them was a young calf he came to call Mount. Together, Cold and Mount grew side by side, surviving in the brutal cold, finding solitude in each other's company. Now, in this particular part of the story, DM can actually utilize this, right? Particularly if this player chooses to actually play this character, right? So it can refer back to this particular area, time, and mold the story within the campaign. Now, for a player, right, it's already started the type of character that this person is going to be playing as, right? So from the very beginning, Colds knew nothing, surviving just basically on instinct and relying on one single solace, in this case, mount. Now, years passed, and the mountains held dangers beyond the cold. One fateful night, the peaceful existence of the herd was shattered by a group of elite Goliath fighters, the warriors, merciless, clad in steel, descended among the mammoths, slaughtering them for sport. Called them out, helpless, terrified, watched as their family fell, captured and shackled. They were dragged away, enslaved by the same clan that once cast Cold out. Cold's captors underestimated him. They forced him into the hard labor. The hardships only hardened him further. Under the brutal training of Scarth, the leader of the warriors, Cold grew strong, wielding his anger as a weapon. Scarth recognized this fire in Cold's eyes and seeing potential to train him in the arts of war. So now we're going to dabble into his Outlander slash class building for this character. Now, as this is a group of fighters that actually came in just to kill the mammoths for sport, it's like a training time for it. This is essentially how Cole learns his fighter skills and how he becomes part of this particular class as a player. Now, with as a DM point of view, you can utilize this to determine how Cold will interact with other Goliaths or other mammoths or other fighters themselves within your games. As these interactions, Cold already has a negative output. One, he was put into slavery, which also explains his stats and why he was strong. He was already put into labor, and why his constitution is also higher. In this case, it was no time for him to educate himself, so wisdom and intelligence was not something that was really focused in his youth or times. Just brutal strength and survival. Again, partly what makes him high in athletic skills. Now, as Cole grew stronger, so did Mount. No longer the playful calf of his youth, Mount transformed into a formidable force. His tusk, once small and curved, grew into powerful weapons capable of shattering stone and bone alike. He is a harsh survival in the frozen white wilderness toughened his hide, making him as resilient as Goliath who rode him. Together, Cold and Mount became inseparable on the battlefield. In one infamous assault, Cold led a charge against the fortress while mounted on Mount's back. The young mammoth smashed through the walls and enemy ranks, and his tusks stomping feet, leaving nothing but devastation in their wake. Now we can utilize this particular type of story as a DM. Now it's left open for the DM to use the people that were part of this fortress themselves, right? Maybe a future player or NPC could come out for revenge against Mount and Cold himself for destroying this particular settlement. Or this is a place where remembrance for Cold and Mount is one of the biggest victorious assets that they fought. Now remember that he's neutral evil, so he does not know anything about the goodness or empathy that normal people generally feel. So this probably goes down the line of the people and the environment that he's surrounded with. In this case, the elite fighter, Goliaths, who themselves are very cold and calculating. And this is brushed off on the Cold himself. Yet Cold's loyalty was a fragile thread. He could not forget the face of the mammoths who raised him, nor forgive the Goliaths for what they have done. One night in the dead of winter, he turned on his captors, leaving the leader for last, meeting Cold's glaives with bitter understanding before the final blow. Cold and Mount fled into the mountains, leaving behind a trail of blood and snow. But their peace was short-lived. One day, while gathering wood, Cold heard Mount's distress. He returned to find his only companion trapped in a cage, taken by slavers. Now Cold wanders the frozen wastes once more, driven by the cold rage, searching for who took Mount. In the end, he's more than just a Goliath. He's a storm in the shape of a man, a whisper of vengeance carried on to the icy wind. Those who cross him will find that, like the mountains, Cold never forgets and never forgives. So generally this is the setup for the story itself and how Cold comes to be in the next campaign as a player. Right, so for my particular case, if this character does get utilized in the campaign that we're about to play, it's in the icy mountains, and it kicks off or kickstarts with me trying to find mounts, right, and the captors that have taken him, which also plays in the factor for the DM. So I've made this particular character, whoever utilizes it, so feel free to use it, of course, it's what it's here for, is that you haven't got a very strong companion straight away. You have to earn your mount, or your companion in this case. Now, for DMs, you could actually utilize this character quite well as an NPC. Right? So not only be used for players, but you can use it as an NPC, particularly if you're now going to enter a snowy mountains. You can make this a quest. Right? A quest to retrieve Mount back for Cold. Or in some cases, depending how the DM wants to play it, right, you can have it that the captors themselves hire you to protect Mount and then prevent it from escaping. Which means that one way or another you will be confronted with Cold as an NPC and potentially a boss fight if the DM wishes. So obviously the DM who have to spice up the character itself, make him a bit stronger, or he can be a mid-range NPC boss that can potentially be fought. And same with Mount. Mount can also be an enemy or a friend depending on the situation in campaign and how Cold can be utilized within your stories. Now, hopefully you all enjoyed this particular episode. Right, if you have any questions or if you wish to comment, please comment below. Right, tell me if there's anything I can improve on, both video presentation wise. As I was saying, this is essentially my first proper video that I've made face to face, and hopefully to make more. Well, until next time, see you.